There's one other person, and I'm going to get you to bring the slides up now, Joseph.
Certainly, yeah. Here we go.
Who actually knew about orchids, and his name is Charles Darwin. Let me read you the title of his book. On the various contrivances by which British and foreign orchids are fertilised by insects and on the good effects of intercrossing by Charles Darwin, MA. By the way, once you've read the title, you don't need to read the book. Aren't you glad our titles of books are much shorter today?
Not shorter now, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if we have a quick look at what Charles Darwin actually graduated in, you will find most people are puzzled. So when you ask that question and then you answer it, Charles Darwin graduated with a Master of Arts in Theology. He was trained to be an Anglican clergyman. I mean, skip the fact that his dad was an atheist. Being a clergyman was a good state-supported job. And so therefore, Charles Darwin knew his Bible. So let's quote from Genesis 1:31, because we know he knew this. Everything God created was very good. He even quotes from the Bible in his diaries, because he still had an Anglican mindset. But the one thing he hadn't done yet was visit Australia, where he could see our greenwood orchid coming up in the morning. So have a look at our morning shot of our orchid. And as we progress stage by stage, oh, it doesn't even look like an orchid, does it? It's sort of thumbnail size. Most people never see it. You see the tongue in the middle? Now you watch what flies to it from the right-hand side. You see the little mosquito there? Now that tells you this is a tiny orchid. Let me cut the orchid in two and show you what's happening inside. You see the tongue will flick the orchid back. It pivots, and you'll find the insect gets trapped in the bottom of the flower. Now the insect actually doesn't mind this, because down there is a nice, sweet, smelly nectar. And the insect really likes it, but the only way out is to climb back up the funnel. Now, if we go to look where the pollen is, the funny thing is the pollen is right on the way for where the insect has to go. Now, I cut this orchid out. I took the pictures. I know this is true. Now, have a look at the next one where we've left one flower intact as the insect starts to crawl out. You see the little tongue in the next picture? That's actually right up against the back. Now, keep watching, because up from there, oh, there it is. Do you see the little insect coming out with pollen on his back? Now, the pollen, that's the only place it will ever hit the insect. Why? Because there's only one way out, and that's that channel. He can't climb on the rest. See where his feet are on the outside? It won't work. He flies away after he's climbed up that little funnel, and that flower that we photographed actually stayed shut for 2 hours. Now, pause on that one for a moment, Joseph, where we've got the little feature about 2 hours, for one reason. You see, the insect is taking pollen away, but he's only taking enough nectar to last for about 15 minutes. He will need a refuel in 15 minutes. So he can't go back to the orchid he just took the pollen from. He can't repollinate the same family. Now, you and I know that sexual relationships between close relatives always produces defects. Now, the same is true for orchids. Now, let's go to the last couple of pictures here, because here's the next picture. The orchid begins to shut, and then you will notice at the bottom, let's have the next picture, Joseph. At the bottom, you see it's starting to swell? It's having babies. Now, the one thing I really love about orchids is the verse that Charles Darwin would have known and he deliberately chose to ignore. Have a look at Genesis 1:11. The first time this appears in the Bible is in Genesis 1. God commanded the earth to bring forth plants after their kind. Now, I've grown orchids since I was a teenager, and the one thing I've noticed is you can fertilize them by hand, you can fertilize them with insects, but they never produce pumpkins. Silly? That's true. They never produce pine trees. It's absolutely ridiculous. They never do it. We know that. They always produce their own kind.